Hey guys, Steve here with another bet rep. Good start. Steve here with another bat rep for you. Here with Leon. Hi Leon.
Hey guys.
And so Kador versus Signar once again. And you got a new list.
New list, woo! Yes, after the many games with Butcher 3, also in various battle reports, I got a few models in so that I can actually play my new list, which is Harkevich. Not all the models are there yet, so I'm proxying a few things, but the most important models are there. So yeah, very keen to finally put Butcher 3 on the shelf, at least for a little bit, and try something different.
So the main thing here was just a destroyer pretending to be a juggernaut.
Yes, and the two Manowar were Forge Seers.
Yeah, so basically the same model without a helmet.
Yeah.
And one guy who doesn't have a gun when he looks like he has a gun. But that was it really. So tell us the whole list.
Yeah, so it's Commander Harkevich with a War Dog, and then he has 3 Kodiaks and 3 Juggernauts in his battle group. One Forge Seer has a Martial Behemoth. Then there's a second Forge Seer just running around. And then we have a marksman as well as a minimum unit of battle mechanics. And in this case, it's all in Jaws of the Wolf. So that means that both Forge Seers as well as the marksman are free. So that probably gives me 13 free points, something like that. So quite good. Nice to finally
And it was 7 heavies or 8 heavies?
It's 6 plus 1, 7 heavies in total.
Because of Behemoth, because he's so expensive.
Yeah.
And I just have my my Kador drop, which is my Maddox list with the Hurricane, and then just the Squire, and that's the whole battle group. And then, in fact, the Squire's not even in the battle group. And then I've got the Stormblade Captain and Lattimore and Strangeways, and then 2 full units of Storm Lancers and the full boat of Stormblades minus 1 of the weapon attachments. And I think that's everything. So here's the scenario we played. I can't remember the name of it, but as you can see, it's the one with some zones.
Number 3.
Yeah, well, this is what it looks like. Look at the screen; you'll be able to see it. And so I won the first turn.
Mm-hmm.
So I set up in my usual symmetric type fashion, and yeah. So I did have a plan. So I knew you were going to be playing Harkevich, and I knew that means a lot of heavies. So I basically thought of 2 plans, and one of them I thought I'd try if I got the first turn, and because I did, that's what I did. And that plan basically revolves around trying to block you out of scenario. So we'll look more into that in a minute. But I set up in a kind of normal, symmetrical type way because I need to be quite spread out in order to envelop your guys and sort of prevent them from getting into zones. So that's all I'll tell you at the moment. And then you set up as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I put everything very centrally. Of course, I don't have much scoring potential in the round zones on the flanks, except for mechanics that probably don't make it that far up, and the Forge Seers. So main point was just getting up as fast as possible, with as much as possible, play the attrition game, easily score in my zone, and then maybe a little bit here and there in the round zones on the sides. So really not that much deep strategy behind it.
Yeah, so your list is pretty nice because it's got a cloud wall which stops shooting and charging, combined with the fact that it's also Kador heavies, so they're already difficult to kill. And then there's huge advantages. It gives them this big speed advantage. So they get reposition, which is nice, and they also get +2 speed most of the time.
Yeah.
And what seems to be the big disadvantage for him for Jack Spam Caster is the amount of focus.
Yeah, only focus 6.
So if he's casting that speed spell, but he's only got 3 focus to hand out to dudes, which is why you put Behemoth on the Forge Seers, right?
Yeah.
Because you can give them, each one could give him a focus, and then he doesn't need the focus from the caster.
Yeah, and Harkevich is also much more squissier than Butcher, so it's not a bad idea to have maybe at least the 3 or so focus left on him once you get a bit closer, so that kind of works out between mobility and leaving 3 focus on him.
Yeah.
And also Behemoth gets a few nice bonuses from being marshaled. So Harkevich has, of course, the movement bonus for his battle group, but Behemoth being a second wave jack, it doesn't really need the movement speed. In that case, considering the line is going to engage in the earlier turns, you don't also really need his feet. In this case, the armor bonus or the free charges. Most of the benefits that Harkevich gives out to his battle group are not that relevant for Behemoth, so that's why he's on a Marshal and a Jack Marshal. And in this case, he can get his 2 focus he needs for both boosted attacks. And there's some other nice benefits from the Jack Marshal abilities that favor him quite well, especially the one where he can aim and then have +2 to his damage. So that at that point you have power 16 shot plus 3d6. So that's quite nice as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty good. So here's what I did on my first turn. So my entire plan for this game was to stop you, because we've got to these 2 zones in the middle and our objectives, which are going to be very easy for us to score and protect from contesting for both of us, because we both got I've got my Hurricane and Maddox, and you've got all of your Jacks and Harkevich. So I kind of took it as read that you would be scoring in your zone and I would be scoring in my zone. So stopping you from contesting my guys from scoring the big round zones, that was the key. And it's kind of a strategy I can only pull off once against any given player, because once you're wise to it, once you're expecting it, then it's very difficult for the other to stop the other person from stopping you from doing it. So my first turn is really just getting up the board as hard as possible. The house being in the way for the left-hand unit of Storm Lancers was a bit of a problem. But either way, they got into kind of shooting range of Behemoth, so his threat range is 20 inches with 4 inches of movement. Oh, no.
18.
18 inches.
Yeah.
So it looked like he was going to be able to shoot them anyway. But even if he hits, he's not necessarily killing a guy, even with a boosted... Actually, if he hits, he does kill a guy. But anyway, I wasn't too worried about losing 1, maybe 2 guys. And I'm further up on the right-hand side just because I can get further up without getting threatened by anything. Got Lattimore in the middle because she needs to be able to allow the maximum amount of boosts for the guys. I think the Stormblade Captain's in the middle there as well.
Another convenient forest.
And then I ran up the Hurricane as quickly as possible as well. He didn't need to do any shooting on this turn. And Maddox, I was considering just running her in the first turn, but I thought it was wiser to get all my upkeeps up. So I did. So I had the free focus on the next turn. So that's that. So here's your first turn.
Yeah, so I think you said that your first turn took 3 minutes, which is very, very short. Mine will take 10. So for a first turn, that's actually quite slow. But again, this is the very first game I play with this list.
Yeah.
So I started checking range to your Storm Lances for Behemoth. So they were indeed in range. That was a nice surprise. I actually thought maybe you had some sneaky counter strategies to just leave them in that range. But I was quite excited to start shooting at them. However, then I started activating my Kodiaks instead, which meant that I put a Cloud Wall in front of Behemoth. So that was mistake number 1, I guess. Long story short, the Kodiaks move up, put a Cloud Wall in place. So between those 3 Kodiaks and also having the objective there, it's a very big line of sight blocking line. So that's very nice, actually, not having to fear my main line being already assaulted or shot at in the next turn, which got quite familiar with playing against Signar. So that also means that in this case the Behemoth moves to the side so that he's not hindered by the Cloud Wall all that much, and everything else kind of stays back, also taking into consideration Electro Leaps. So I'm being quite cautious with my second line there. And the
mechanics, they die instantly too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and also the Forgers only have to be within 7 inches of Behemoth, so that's okay to leave a bit further back. And my 2 Juggernauts move to the flank. One kind of peeks out from behind the Cloud Wall, a little bit of bait there in case you decide to go for it, and the other one goes towards the left zone just in case you move around, hiding behind the forest. But he's at this point not actually in the zone.
Mm-hmm.
But already first time with mobility up, I'm quite amazed by how fast Kato Jacks become. It's quite a different game than what I'm used to.
Yeah, it's really nice to be again to protect them against shooting as well, because they're They're usually pretty solid against shooting, but it just completely shuts down whatever your opponent was going to do, except against Legion.
Yeah. Don't play Legion, Steve. Don't play Legion.
So your way that you're positioned now means that because that far right hand side Juggernaut, he's not actually in the circle zone.
No.
So the way that you're set up now means that I can keep going with my plan and basically surround your front line with dudes, and then hope that you won't have enough attacks to take them all down and still put guys in the zones, because that will allow me then to score on your turn. And then if I can get far enough ahead on the points on your turn, then I'm able to then sort of almost automatically win by continuing to score on my turn, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
So that's what it looked like after I've done my moves. So as you can see on the right, I just ran with the Storm Lancers. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to give you a Storm Lance for each of your attacks, so that you need to take them down before you can move, if you see what I mean. So you can't take out some guys with one guy and then move another guy. So that's why I'm really just giving up all of my Storm Lancers. And that Juggernaut on the far right that I was talking about just now, he could very easily move into the zone and ruin my plan. So I've got actually 3 Storm Lancers all very tightly gathered around him, so that if he wants to get in the zone, then he has to kill all 3 of them, or he has to walk all the way around and get a ton of free strikes. So it was all completely fine, and then I moved up the Stormblades all out of your charge ranges for your heavies, and taking up residents in that zone to try and guarantee me that I would score in that zone. And also the Hurricane, before all of this happened, the Hurricane walked up and shot 2 of your jacks, I think both of which were Juggernauts.
Yeah.
By the looks, knocked them both down, and just what that does is it forces you to use focus to get them to stand up again. So either you cast your spell that stands everyone up, or you have to spend focus in your control phase to stand them up. And against Jack Spam, if you can reduce the amount of focus that they have to spend, then it drastically reduces their effectiveness. So basically knocking each of those guys down reduces your effectiveness by 1 attack, which is basically a dead Stormlance per attack.
Yeah.
So it's all worth doing. Also, the Hurricane's sitting in the zone. One mistake that I made here was that I didn't get Maddox into the right-hand round zone. And if I had done that, then I would have had a much easier time scoring, because it would have allowed me to get an extra point. But I didn't see that this early on. So if I ever try this again, then that's something I'll be very much aware of, going into the future. So, I'm ready to lose all of my Storm Lancers and hope that you aren't aware enough of the situation to get your guys into the zone. I haven't feated, so if you did toe into the zone, then I probably have enough pushes with beat back on my feet to get your guys out of the zone.
Yeah.
But at least I want you to not notice on your turn, so that I can score some points on your turn. So here's what the board looked like after you had your turn.
Yeah, so going into my next round, I've had very mixed emotions, because I can get lots of Storm Lances. So that was very positive. But on the other hand, I was like, so what is this guy planning? Like, what is he up to? Because why is he putting all those Storm Lances in my... Because you ran most of them, right? So there weren't even any attacks coming in.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm probably missing something, because why would he actually do this? So I went into full kitty mode. Again, not really understanding what you were trying to pull off here. So I handed out a bunch of focus. I can't really recall how much I gave to different jacks. But the Codex are actually pretty good at getting rid of Storm Lances, because they have this vent steam. So in this case, I could usually take out 1 or 2 Storm Lances just by venting steam. And long story short, I killed all of the Storm Lances that were up in my face.
One guy on the left there.
Oh yeah, that was the one that was engaging Behemoth. Yeah,
so you had a choice between killing that guy, or you walked backwards, had a free strike, but didn't do anything.
Yeah, that was a mistake that I made, because what I wanted to do on the picture on the left is free up Behemoth so he can shoot at your infantry unit in the zone, because they were fairly close together, and then with 2 boosted shots I could probably get rid of quite a few, and they hit quite hard once they get into melee, so that would have been very nice. But then because I'm just thinking about a whole bunch of stuff, I forget to allocate any focus to him, at least giving him focus from the fort seers. I forget to use any of the boosts that they have. So he just ends up walking backwards. Your free strike didn't do anything. But then I just have 2 shots that don't really do much at all. So that was a mistake.
Well, you killed 2 Stormblades. It wasn't really critical.
Yeah, no, not really. But at least I managed to get rid of all of the storm lenses except for the one that's not really doing much on the flank. I repositioned around a little bit, but not all that much. And at that point, also when I started this turn, I realized the potential threat range on your Hurricane.
Yeah,
and then I got really worried during my turn that Harkevich has to be somewhere where it's outside of either 22 inches or out of line of sight. So that was my main thing to avoid.
Yeah.
So yeah, the whole turn I was basically playing, first I have to kill storm lances, secondly I have to protect Harkevich. Which both seem to have worked. I'm surrounding Harkevich with mechanics and some other stuff, blocking it with also the cloud walls. So I feel he's fairly well protected.
Yep.
And at the end, I also ran my marksman into the zone on the right.
Annoying.
Yeah, and he just
really
kind of towing in. So that was that last.
That marksman was very, very annoying. So at the end of this round, you scored a point because you managed to clear out your zone. So I kind of realised that it probably would have been better for me to get maybe my Stormblade Captain and Lattimore into that zone as well. That would have stopped you from scoring in your own zone. And that would have given me a bit more of a points advantage. So in this case, I just got 2 points.
I got 2 points as well, right? Yeah.
No, you got 1.
Isn't the right zone free?
No, I got Strange Ways in there.
Ah, okay.
But you haven't got any units there to score in that zone anyway.
True.
Solos don't score there. So I got a 1 point advantage. So I needed to score to shut the game down because I'd given up so much just to keep you out of the round zones. I had to win on this turn and a 1 point advantage, so I needed to score in my zone in the 2 round zones, and I needed to destroy your objective in order to win.
And when you said that at the beginning of your turn, I was like, oh snap. So there was actually a third way of so I didn't at no point during my turn I thought, oh, he's gonna go for a scenario win this early on. I was really thinking assassination, and so I was like, shit, that's...
So when I first saw the 2017 Steamroller package, I always thought, well, that's the end of scenario play, but it's really not true. It's really important. So on the left-hand zone, as you can see, I've got guys in there, and you're not contesting, so that's that.
Yeah.
And the same with my my square zone. So what I need to do is I need to get rid of that solo who's sitting in the round zone on the far edge and get Maddox into that zone, and I need to take down your objective. So taking down the objective wasn't too bad because the Hurricane has got this nice shooting, can boost damage, except I didn't, on average I should have taken it down, but I didn't manage it in the end. Or did I hit it to get it on the last box or something? Did I do 1 damage? No, it was something else.
Didn't you take it? I think the Hurricane shot the... I think he
it was the Stormblade Captain who did it. Who did it in the end, wasn't it? Maybe not. I can't remember. Maybe he did it completely.
Yeah, I think he did it completely.
Or he did it to the box anyway. It took his everything he had to do it. Yeah. And then, so that was the objective. So that scored me a point. And then the solo was a big problem because I didn't have line of sight for charges. He's got stealth. So I can't shoot him with Maddox. And the way that I finally got round it was using Lattimore, and she had enough movement to walk into the forest to get within 3 inches of the Juggernaut, and then I was relying on her Electroleaps to take down the solo, which was enough in the end. I think it did killed it by quite a lot.
I hate Electroleaps so much.
So I was just relying on the utility of 2 of my pieces there. And so that was it. That allowed me to get 4 points, and which put me ahead by 5 and closed the game down.
Your turn, right? That was enough.
So that was it.
Yeah. So here I was like, going strong, killed a bunch of stuff. Although I knew something was coming up, considering you put all the lenses in my face.
Yeah.
But I did not see this coming.
Good. And I think that was it. I think that's my only opportunity to use that strategy. I think that was it. So I used it once, and that was fine. And we played a second game. So do you want to carry on? Should we carry on? Yeah, we'll carry on. So we had another game. We switched up the scenario. I don't know what it's called, but it's the one with the round zone in the middle, and then we each get a square zone near our deployment on each side of the board, and then there's a flag there each as well. And I won the roll-off again, so I got to take the first turn again. But this time knowing that I couldn't just do the same thing again, I couldn't just...
or could you?
Couldn't just try and keep you out of scenario, so I had to switch up my tactics a little bit. So did you change anything about the way you were going to play in this game?
I think I deployed almost exactly the same as before.
Like when you're playing Jack Spam, then you're pretty much in a block in the middle most of the time.
Yeah. The only thinking I had going into this game was my plan was to have Behemoth again on the flank and just hold down my own zone. So he can just walk all the way through and then still affect quite a bit of the board by with his shooting, and have everything else go for the middle and attrition you down basically. Mm-hmm. I wasn't really planning on going for my own flag just because I cannot stretch out that far with this list. And I didn't really expect you to dedicate too much to that flag because it's quite far away for you as well. Mm-hmm. And I could still try to be a nuisance on your flag contest there a little bit.
Yeah. So I think in a straight up fight, then our two armies, I can probably get the charge off on your guys most of the time. And I have to do that with enough damage to mean that you can't get back at me enough. And it's a peace trade, and that's kind of my only advantage, because if you get the charge, then I can't win. You'll just annihilate me. So I had to kind of use all of my advantages. So I've got the advantage of board control. I'm faster and I can spread out more.
But I have clouds.
Yes, you do have clouds. Yeah, indeed.
Thank God.
So a bat rep I've watched recently, and I can't remember where, but they specifically said if someone's playing with clouds, I think it might be Courage of Caspia. If someone's playing with a cloud wall, spread out, because if you're just sitting in front of a cloud wall, then you can't do anything. But if you're spread out, then they can't cover all of the angles with the clouds. So that was very much in my mind. And I deployed with almost exactly the same deployment as last time. And it's a fake out, so I have enough movement. I'm still got the faster list, and what it meant that I could deploy as if I'm going for some symmetry, and then I think it's called refused flank. So and then sort of pile everyone over onto one side. So that's what I did. So my first turn looked like this. So I've got a huge clump of guys. So I'm really letting you have your zone. I can't really do anything about that, but I want to get to your flag. I also want to contest the center zone, because that's where all of the killing is going to happen. And if I can keep that zone clear for whatever reason, then I will score points and you won't, because I've got units and you only have mechanics. And moving Maddox over towards my zone there, because it's easy. It's got a trench in it, and it's easy for her to score without being in any danger. And the only thing I didn't skew over to the right was Strangeways, who's standing behind the Hurricane. And the Hurricane was the other thing I didn't skew to the right, because I basically wanted to make room for my guys to maneuver. And the Hurricane in the first couple of turns is all about shooting, and he can outrange Behemoth. So he's going to sort of be more effective if he can be closer to the centre of the board. What I didn't spot when we discussed which sides we were going to take, what we spotted was that whoever was on my side of the table would be able to contest the flag on the left of the screen, but still have cover behind the house, which was incredibly important later in the game. But that's part of the reason why Strangeways is heading over that way, because he can still help with the Hurricane, do all of his repairs and give it focus, and he can still hide behind the house and reposition back to... No, he doesn't have reposition. That's in heavy metal. In fact, it didn't matter this time. But he would be able to give focus to the Hurricane and still sit there and contest that flag. And I've got my Storm Lancers going hard towards the flag on the other side of the table, because I can get there first, because I've got first turn, and hopefully block you out of the flag. And so that was the plan.
That was a very surprising plan.
Yeah, well, I wasn't going to do the same thing as the last game.
Yeah,
it would not have worked twice.
So in comparison to the last game, I was actually trying to keep track of how many points could potentially be scored in a given turn, not to be surprised again. But it does really mean I have to pay a lot better attention to what goes on. So I, for instance, could not have you have the flag on the left side with strange ways. That would just rack up points too quickly, considering your flexibility. I actually don't really recall what I did here, to be honest.
Brain's shut down finally.
Yeah, so at this point my brain was already quite tired anyway.
You specifically said that, my brain's...
this is done. First turn, right? Yeah, it's first turn.
Yeah,
okay, good.
turn.
Yeah, so typical Harkevich plan, I moved up my Kodiaks and created a cloud wall, and also remembered to reposition back.
Yes.
So at this point, right now, actually most of my army is still behind it, so I'm feeling pretty safe. And also again, Behemoth walks to my own zone to again score some points there. The marksman is sneaking around the forest all the way on the left side of the picture, and he's now 12 inches away from your flag, so that next turn I can run and start scoring some points, just in case you don't dedicate anything there. And then on the right side, on my left side, basically on my left flank, I move 2 Juggernauts to peek around the corner. Maybe you want to charge them, start a peace trade. Unlike last game, I do keep 1 Juggernaut a little bit further back because again, you just ran to engage them last time, and this time I want to keep one a little bit back so I can actually still counter charge and not be held there by storm lances.
So the fact that you can get Pathfinder for all your jacks is pretty huge in this list, because on this map particularly with this scenario and the amount of forests and rough terrain, having Pathfinder is huge, because
it's so helpful.
I could, if you didn't have Pathfinder, I could really take advantage of all the terrain and just sit there, and you wouldn't be able to do much. But yeah, the threat of Pathfinder is pretty huge. So yeah, my plans stayed the same. I need to slowly get up on points, and at the same time I need to try and take down like 3, maybe 4 of your jacks on my feet turn. So what I need to do is I need to play for position without getting within the 9-inch threat range of your jacks to guarantee that I still get the alpha. So that's exactly what I did. So you had 1 Juggernaut poking out here, which I was able to take down, knock down with the Hurricane, and do a little bit of damage, and then he was within charge range of enough of one of the units of my Storm Lancers, and that was enough to take him down. So that was a good start on the old peace trade for me, although the rough terrain kept causing me problems with my reposition. So I tried to spread out a bit and tried to make it not so easy for you to take out maybe 3 Storm Lancers with 1 Jack, for example, which I think is what you did in the end. So trying to stay back and prepare for my alpha on the following turn, because you have to get in the zone with your guys to stop me from getting too far up on scenario. And hopefully that will give me enough guys in order to charge you and do lots of damage on my feet turn. Finally, so Lattimore would now because your turn next turn would be the first scoring turn. Lattimore is in position on your flag, on your side of the table. I've got enough Storm Lancers in the way to stop you from contesting, or so I thought. And I've got Strange Ways in a position where he's contesting the flag, but he's also within 7 inches of the Hurricane to give it focus when it needs it. And then Maddox is just sitting at the back here in the zone, and ready to score that zone when the scoring starts. So, yep.
So that was already a very complicated scenario, because the main line, so basically across from me, the storm wall and the infantry unit, Hurricane, were too far away for me to charge, even with my additional movement. And I have storm lances basically behind my lines, and you've also positioned them very well, like what you just said. I couldn't really take out many, unlike last time with Vent's team and things like this. I was like, shit, what do I do to prevent you from scoring all these points? And
so you need your steam to block my line of sight to Harkevich this time, rather than using it to take out guys.
Because the Hurricane was close enough so you could easily take all of your shots and shoot down Harkevich. So that kind of put me in quite a difficult position. And you could also now, in this case, easily score 2 points, right? Your own zone and then the flag.
Yeah.
So, difficult. So what I started with is Behemoth. So Behemoth gives me a little bit of flexibility of where I remove models. So unfortunately, I did realize that Behemoth was too far on the flank to really, in this case, contribute a lot. So I was kind of forced into shooting maybe some models that weren't the most ideal of choices. I did end up deciding to actually shoot down the Stormlands in front of the Behemoth on my left flank. So
you can't quite see him here because he's behind the Hurricane.
No, this one. The one that's basically blocking the charge lane.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Sorry, yeah.
So that at least frees up that Juggernaut to do whatever he wants there, and maybe create more of a gap for me to squeeze through and kill more Stormlances than just the one.
Yep.
And I think that the first shot actually wasn't so successful. So I just managed to take out the one Stormlance with Behemoth, despite in this case actually remembering to give him focus, unlike last game. So there's already a learning curve.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, in the middle, the Kodiaks weren't really able to reach all that much because you were just too far away.
Yeah.
So I figured to just do the same thing again, just trample forward, create a cloud wall. And unfortunately, I actually forgot to reposition with the first two Kodiaks, but we did a little take back with the second Kodiak because I hadn't moved anything else yet.
Yeah.
So I have two Kodiaks behind the cloud wall, which I feel good about, but the third one, which in this case I moved first, was just sitting there right in front of the storm wall and a bunch of storm blades. Oh, fuck. So that wasn't very ideal. And then what was very handy in this case is that I now could charge my Juggernaut into your Stormlances and get in a bit deeper and take out two Stormlances.
No, he took 3 out on his own, that guy.
3,
yeah.
Okay.
Or did he? Or was it 2? No, it was 2. Sorry, you're right. Yeah, because one of the Kodiaks.
Yeah, well, one on either side.
With his steam.
Which then also meant that I was within 4 inches of the flag, which I was hoping for the beginning of my turn, but while I was actually doing this, I didn't even think about it anymore. No. Just kind of slipped my mind, but it did end up, I guess, how I planned it at the beginning of my turn. Mm-hmm. So he's at least contesting that flag, which is nice. So I hopefully only get to 1 point at the end of my turn. And our Harkevich actually moved up. That was actually also a difficult situation. He moved basically with his back to the forest. And I parked Behemoth as well as a Juggernaut in front of him to make sure that you don't have line of sight with your Hurricane, which wasn't ideal because that meant that I have to move my Juggernaut in that direction, which is the opposite direction of where it wants to be. Mm-hmm. They could have used him for countercharging behind the Kodiaks, for instance.
Because the Hurricane can just walk up into the clouds and then he's got line of sight.
Yeah.
So
that's already, the Hurricane is really cramping my style in terms of movement. It also means that my control range kind of shifts to one flank instead of having my command range more centered. So that wasn't very nice. Difficult turn.
Yeah, and you feated as well. Did you already mention?
Oh yeah, I did feat. Yeah, I did feat.
Was very annoying because this was the turn that I wanted to feat, and our feats basically neutralize each other. I get an extra 3 power on melee weapons. You get an extra 3 armor. So it makes, in an ideal situation, then I can feat when you haven't feated, and I can really destroy some dudes. But yeah, that wasn't to be. So this was definitely feat turn, whatever happened, because this is a very critical turn for me because I need to do enough damage to you to stop the repercussions from happening. So at the end of your turn, you scored 1 point, and I scored 1 point. Instead of the 2 that I wanted, because I need to get a head-on scenario to try and force you to get into my melee range for feat turn, if you see what I mean. Strange Ways is still contesting that flag, and apart from giving a focus to the Hurricane, I didn't move him. And I've lost quite a few Storm Lances, so that Juggernaut was quite a good trade, but you've ended up giving me another Juggernaut probably. And quite critically, that Juggernaut on the far right, who's contesting the flag that Lattimore would be scoring, is not in your feat. So he's going to be a lot easier to take down. And that's what I did. So having that one Kodiak within the cloud wall gave my Hurricane an in. Otherwise, I would have had to have paid I put a sail on the Hurricane, which means he can trample or charge for free. But having that Kodiak available to charge meant that I basically got a free attack out of it. And then the Hurricane really comes into his own when he's attacking jacks, because each time he hits, he's taking out a cortex.
Yeah, that's nasty.
And if you do that 3 times, then there's not much that they can do to retaliate on the following turn. So I concentrated on the first guy, took out his cortex, stopped at that point because I didn't want to destroy him. In fact, I took out his cortex with 2 attacks because one of the attacks did enough damage in the right column to take the other cortex out, which gave me 3 attacks to take out the cortex on the other Kodiak, which was good because I didn't do any damage at all. It was terrible. I did some damage, but it wasn't good enough. And then that left me with my Stormblades and Storm Lances, and I think 2 of my Storm Blades were able to walk up to Kodiaks and do some damage, but nothing really. They were doing power 18s with beatback, so I was trying to manipulate that a little bit just to move you away from Maddox and things like that. But the beatback didn't really come into it too much. And then I had a load of Stormblades who were able to charge the Juggernaut, and I believe I had to finish the Juggernaut off with Storm Lances as well because I just wasn't rolling the damage, unfortunately. But that's fine because he's gone. He's not contesting the flag anymore, which means that I can then score on the flag and on my zone, and I'm still stopping you from scoring your flag and the centre zone. So that then put me up by 1 point. So I was on 3 and you were on 2 at that point.
Yeah. So if I thought last turn was difficult, it was even more of a head scratcher. I think I spent 15 minutes thinking about different scenarios. I actually thought I had a small chance of winning because what I thought was that Kodiak is within 10 inches of Maddox. So what I could do is give the only Kodiak I still have left there where I'm allowed to give focus to, because the other 2 lost their cortexes. I could trample over the couple of Stormblades in front of me. Then with my initials, take out 1 or 2 Stormblades that are shielding Maddox, and then move up Behemoth and hopefully with 2 fully boosted shots, take out Maddox. But we moved models out of the way to properly measure, and she was just out of 10 inches. So that didn't work, and that probably already took away about 10 minutes on my clock. And then we spent a whole bunch of time thinking. I was not very confident that I had any way of still winning, because again, the assassination is out. My list doesn't really do assassination all that well unless I get super lucky. Scenario was not very possible because I cannot take out Strange Ways with my marksman.
Not in 1 turn.
Yeah.
In fact, not in 2 turns.
Yeah. So I could go for the 3 auto damage. Or if I try to spike my dice, which I did in this case I have to do because it would take me 3 turns, right, to kill him with 8 damage boxes. It's also very unlikely because you have 8 damage boxes and I think dice -5. I can't really score on that side, which means I only keep scoring the 1 point and you keep scoring 2 points. So scenario is just not really possible anymore. And attrition, while the most likely, is also not really good because both of my Kodiaks lost their cortexes. Also, in your turn, you shut down 2 mechanics that were actually close enough to the Kodiaks for them to be repaired.
I got pretty lucky because they were in a trench.
Yeah.
So I had Lattimore to boost to hit for one of my Storm Lancers, and he just rolled a 9.
Yeah,
that was it on 2 dice, so I just got lucky, really.
And then Electro leapt onto the second, and then he was also dead. So that meant that my Kodiaks were now really just standing around. So then again, the attrition game, 2 Kodiaks are out. Behemoth and the Juggernaut basically have to keep shielding Harkevich, who is literally with his back against the wall, or in this case, a forest. So I can't really do enough attacks to really take out this many Storm Blades and Storm Lances. We even talked about it a little bit, right? We had a little bit of a discussion back and forth on what I could still potentially do, which was not really all that much. So eventually I went with a plan that was at least most enjoyable, which was trying to take out Hurricane.
Yep. And it looked like, from our initial calculations, we thought that it was probably, on average, you wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
But I think we must have miscalculated.
Yeah, I think so.
Or rather, I did.
Yeah.
Trying to dissuade you from trying it, I think, was subconsciously happening.
So I had basically 2 Kodiaks there that could just do their initials, including 1 which had a crippled arm. Then I had 1 Kodiak which I gave 3 focus, so he could actually really do some damage. which is basically sitting right in front of the Hurricane right now.
No, he just had 1 focus, didn't he? Because you need the speed boost for the Juggernaut, and he got 3 focus.
Ah, yeah, true. Yeah, I gave 3 focus to the Juggernaut instead. Yeah. Of course, I already used my feet, so no free charges, which was unfortunate.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also still had Behemoth, who could shoot 2 fully boosted shots into him just in case it wouldn't work out. So, and that was in this case because we did the analysis and it was probably unlikely this would happen. I had to basically spike a couple of dice rolls. That was our expectation.
Mm-hmm.
So my first 2 Kodiaks, my crippled Kodiaks went in, did very mediocre results, rolled quite poorly.
I think you rolled
to average.
You rolled average all the way through. Didn't you?
A couple of 4s and 5s, a couple of 8s.
Nothing terrible, but nothing great, really.
Yeah, so I'm like, shit, it doesn't really go in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
Then my third Kodiak goes, who is kind of like one of the key pieces.
Yeah. Now I remember.
But I had to.
Oh Jesus!
I had to basically move forward a bit, like 3 or 4 inches, which gave you a free strike with one of your storm blades.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that's not such a big deal. I had a little bit of damage on me already, but no systems were down.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I can still take a bit of damage if you damage me at all, and then I can still contribute to taking down the Hurricane. And you took your free strike, and you rolled
triple sixes.
Triple sixes.
So 18 damage.
Yeah,
which was exactly enough to kill him. Was it exactly enough?
No, it was plenty. Yeah, it was more than enough to take down the Kodiak. So I was like, son of a bitch.
That's like, that kind of thing happening occasionally is what dissuades anyone from ever risking free strikes, because it's like, that's definitely going to happen now.
Yeah, so like, okay, so even this last ditch plan that was actually just for fun just got taken away from me.
Yeah.
But whatever. Juggernaut went in and did a lot of damage. So that was actually quite helpful. And then again, the Behemoth followed up.
That's right. So because it's colossal, he doesn't get a bonus to defense when he's in melee.
Yeah, which is very nice. Just to have the flexibility at the end in case I still needed it.
It just allowed you to, if you'd already taken the Hurricane 8, you could have been shooting at some infantry or whatever, but in this case it just gave you enough to take down the Hurricane.
So I took him down, so that was quite satisfying, but it also meant that in terms of my board positioning, everything was surrounding the now dead Hurricane. So, counter charges all around. It also means I had to take the Juggernaut away from Harkevich, so he's not really shielded at all. He's just kind of standing in the middle of the zone with storm lenses staring at him.
So he's got Iron Sentinel, which is pretty decent when he's next to Behemoth.
Yeah.
But for example, I could just charge everyone at Behemoth and do a ton of electric leaps, for example.
Yeah.
And chip away that. So the way that the board looks now after your turn is I still scored my 2 points and you still scored your 1 point, so that put me up by 2. And as long as it keeps going like that, I'll win eventually. And it doesn't look like you can contest that flag that Lattimore is on the right. It doesn't look like you can contest my zone. And it looks like as long as I can keep contesting the flag with Strangeways on the other side, then that's pretty much it. So what I then would have to do is I could have charged quite a lot of guys into these 3 heavies in the middle. I probably could have taken out 2 of them. 3 maybe if I got lucky, but it would have been a bit of a tall order. That was probably enough. If I could take out 2 of them, it was probably enough that you then wouldn't have enough left on the board to...
Yeah, because again, those Kodiaks are pretty badly crippled.
Yeah.
So functionally, they can only move 4 inches around the board. Well, actually 6 to be fair. But they can't charge anymore, do anything fancy. So there's really only a Juggernaut at this point, and the Behemoth standing all the way on the other side.
And the Juggernaut was the one who's in range of all of those Storm Lancers, so I had a good chance of killing him on my turn anyway. So I decided to pack it in at that point.
Yeah.
We'd already been playing for about 4 hours, I think, with both games. And you only had 10 minutes left on your clock as well, so that was a big factor as well. So we decided to stop at that point, but I think it was pretty good. Well, it's mainly because I won. Well, I think Harkevich is a nice list, and you just got to play more games with it. That's all really.
It's definitely really have to get used to playing a squishy caster, because I haven't really played squishy casters in a very long time, at least since MK3, because I switched to Butcher right before MK3 started. So that's really takes some getting used to in terms of positioning, but that's probably the easier part. But the fact that Hurricane is there to just shoot 22 inches on everything is definitely not helping switching to a squishier caster.
Yeah, it's a nasty. If you're vulnerable to getting shot for assassination, like a lot of casters have some protection against that kind of thing. But it's a really nasty surprise that the Hurricane just goes, oh, you're dead now.
Yeah.
With the slam on that first one.
It's a knockdown, so even if you shield something, you just knock it down.
Yeah.
But I just have to pay better attention to terrain, I think. Because I never used to think, oh, there's a house here or a forest, I can hide my caster behind it because I just had a butcher who didn't want to do it anyway. So I have to pay attention to terrain.
Harkevich he's great because he solves a lot of Khador heavy problems, makes him faster and stops him getting shot. But the focus is a big factor. So he's got 6 focus and he wants to cast mobility. So he's basically got 3 focus. And he wants to be giving those out to his jacks, especially after turn 2. So it's a bit tricky.
At least you don't really have to cast mobility probably after turn 2 or 3 once you're engaged.
So like 7 or 8 Khador jacks is pretty intimidating, but actually they're never quite at full potential.
No.
Well, maybe one of them is, but the rest they have to come in waves. You can't really. You can have them there to absorb damage, but they can't really. Or there's not like one huge apart from.
Unfortunately not.
There's not like one huge charge turn.
It's not like Nemo 1.
Yeah.
With 12 focus.
Yeah, because he doesn't have these guys die easier, but he can give them a lot of attacks.
Yeah.
It's going to be
very fun to, well, first of all, play a different caster. I think it's going to be much easier once I play a couple games, because I think with Butcher 3 it was just a lot to think about because he wanted to contribute, but then he could still be killed if you...
Well, once you've got that first turn, that unpacking and that's getting the smoke done properly and all that kind of stuff, once you've got that done, it frees up your mind to actually think about what's happening for the rest of the game and what your strategy is against that particular list, and then it just makes it a lot easier. You just got to keep playing.
Yeah, and I also wonder if I maybe change my movement, or at least my plan too much based on what you do.
Yeah,
I could just spend 2 turns just walking forward without any kind of adaptation, win some time on my clock.
Yep,
without too much things changing. So I was probably still too sensitive to whatever you were doing.
Yeah, you don't know what my plan's going to be. If I'm able to change, basically redeploy in my first turn as well, that's quite handy. Like due to the speed of the list. So it depends who you're playing against and stuff like that. But I'm looking forward to seeing a bit more of Harkevich. I think next time I will not deliberately play what I think is a strong list into it, and we'll see what you can do against Nemo, for example, with Jack Spam.
Yeah, it's also
get 12 heavies on the table.
Pretty mean feat against. I guess just as mean as against Butcher 3 Jack Spam.
Because of the disruption.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah.
But at least I have 2 forts here that can take away disruption, so they're not.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I don't know if it really matters so much, but at least gives me some more options.
Yeah. Well, it stops you giving focus to Behemoth then.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're talking hypotheticals now, and we've gone into almost an hour of talking, so it's going to be a huge long back rep. But that's cool. We usually do short ones, so it's a nice long one. Okay, so we'll cut it there, and we'll see you on the next one.
Ciao.